Board of Environmental Protection is expected to hold a final vote tomorrow on whether the state should join others in adopting California-style regulations to drastically limit the sale of new gas-powered vehicles. The proposal would eventually require 82% of new vehicles sold in Maine to be considered zero emissions by the 2032 model year. There have already been a dozen states that have signed on to California standards for boosting electric vehicle sales and reducing traditional vehicle sales in order to meet climate goals. Supporters say drastic action is needed to combat climate change, and the proposal still allows some gas-powered vehicles to be sold. Critics say the plan isn't feasible because of the state's geography and infrastructure. The board meeting begins at 9 a.m. at the Augusta Civic Center.